Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Beat. We not only talk about everyday problems, we talk about everyday solutions.
Everyday problems and solutions. Here we are.
So what do you think?
Yeah, worth it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like the big intro. I like the adjustment because we're moving on from just business stuff
to everyday stuff,
which
can be business or not. It took me a long time to come up with that.
Oh yeah, the word every day.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we had two things on the agenda from last week. One was come up with a new opening phrase.
Yep.
And so I thought I'd try that out on you.
I like it
without checking beforehand.
Well, I like it. No, I like the shock factor. I like the realness. You know,
I want to see your reaction.
I don't want anything to seem scripted. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's like just. I don't want to go into some long introduction, and to me that just doesn't.
No, I don't really want to do any of that stuff. Again, it's scripted, and this whole thing is based on not being scripted. I want everybody to recognize the fact that when Bob and I get onto these Zoom calls and start doing this, there's no script.
I'm pretty sure they get
there's enough to talk about.
There's plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the other thing we were going to follow up on was AI, but I do have something I have to say. It probably will introduce that subject, but this is my beef today.
Okay.
Is AI.
Okay.
We have a lot to talk about there, but speaking of it, remember, so last week we had this gesture problem, like that all of a sudden I would put a thumb up or not. And then what I thought was Zoom would do automatic gestures.
It's not
okay. Well, so this is how clever I am. I realized that this was happening not only in Zoom, it was happening in Microsoft Teams and any of the other programs that I was using. And it was the same gestures. Now, you'd think that I would catch on to the fact that maybe those programs wouldn't have the exact same gestures, but nothing else was plausible to me, right? Like, okay, turns out this is actually an Apple thing.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. So if you are on Zoom right now, like, because you're on a Mac, I'm on a Mac, there's an icon that should be like blue at the top. That's like a video icon or something like that. Or do you see that at the top of your Mac? This might be why it's not happening to you. There's
the Zoom circle.
I don't know if it's a circle. Is it blue?
It's blue.
Click on it for a second.
It's on my other screen.
Click on it, and I think what you're going to see is that there's like a place for reactions.
Yeah, there's participants, screen share, chat, close, record audio. Maybe that first one is. I don't know.
No, that's not the one.
No,
anyway,
the one.
I can tell you that on at least my Mac, there's a drop-down menu when you're on a video call.
Okay.
And it's any video call through any system.
Okay. It's more of a Mac thing then.
And that drop down, then I don't know how you turn it on or off or whatever, right? Like maybe some people have it, some people don't. I have it on both of my Macs, so they're newer Macs. And anyway, you drop down this menu and there's a place for these automatic reactions that apparently happen during any video call, no matter what the system is. So here I was thinking it was Zoom and it wasn't. Now, I will say though, that even though it wasn't Zoom, nobody knew what it really was.
I had no clue. I thought it was Zoom. Because I thought Zoom put these things on.
Well, they have that functionality as well. And as I said last week, I turned it off with them and it wasn't stopping. So I assumed, well, something's broken with their system. Turns out Apple has it too. And so I do this other podcast on strategy, and I was just doing this podcast on systems that need to work together, and that like you can't just develop your program in a bubble, right? Because it works with other programs, and if something's broken, people are going to blame you. And here it was happening in real time. It's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. So anyway, there you go. That's my follow up there. But that leads us into this whole AI thing. Because I don't know, do you think that this is part of AI, this automatic? I guess it would be, right?
I guess it would. Yeah, it would be, right? It's the intelligence of the system reading something and delivering something that you've not asked for. So it's that.
Yeah.
It's that, right? Not verbally asked for or typed in on its own. So I would call it intelligence. Maybe not as much as we see now with certain things like ChatGPT and all that other stuff that's sort of going on out there, but it is part of it. And I think to an extent, some of these things are looking for, how do we add more value, right? How do we put something in there that, you mentioned last week that it could be something that's utilized for people that are disabled and need those capabilities. And I think that that's right. And I think that we should be doing that. And I think I'm not saying anything about that, but I think also there's this thing where just trying to build some stuff because we want to be cooler than the other.
That's what I think it is.
And who needs it? Like, honestly, and if you do it for the general population or you do it for a certain segment that needs it a lot, it needs to work, right?
Yes.
And the bottom line is, you were just talking to me before we pressed record and your arms were crossed like this. And somehow I got a thumbs down.
Out of nowhere. And then I turned it off. Now that shouldn't happen again, right?
With your head to make
it doesn't work. And this is the problem. So and I think it's almost like, so here's the way I look at that. There's so many applications for AI and I don't even know that there's a good line between like what is AI and what isn't. Because to me, AI is when the machine is learning, right? That's kind of what, I don't know, but maybe AI is like an excuse for some companies to say, well, it didn't work because it's still learning. I mean, but it still needs to work. Like, I mean, well, it's still learning your gestures, really. So this is a gesture that it like says thumbs down. Like, how is it? It didn't learn anything from last week. That's for sure. Exactly,
because I was taught that this is a closed stance. Is it now going to say that I don't care what you're saying to me right now because I'm not paying attention? Like, not really what I mean.
Doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know. And then I look at other applications of AI. So now you get like these generated images when you put in some phrase. I haven't tried any of this, by the way, but I've read about it and I've seen the results of the images. And you type in, something, and then it pops out this image of somebody with 6 heads and 12 fingers. And like, why? What is that? What's the purpose? You need to tell me because I can't figure it out.
Gosh, I wish I had an answer for you. I don't have an answer for you but there are so many different applications, right? That some of them are really scary in the aspect of you're getting fake images of people on any social media that says, oh, this is this person, or and it's really not them. It's an AI built person that you've got to sort of define. Is it really them doing this, or is it not really them doing this? Because everybody cares to see what everybody else is doing. And now you can just create a human that looks just like the real human.
I don't know.
Put it out there and say they're doing something they're not.
And I'm sure you're like me because some of these images are of very attractive people, right?
Yes.
And so you scroll through. Yeah. And like, if this isn't real, am I supposed to be attracted to that or not? Like, it screws with your mind. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling.
Right. And some of them are scantily clad, right? Like, did they really wear that outfit?
Yeah. Like, and you're like, wait a minute. It's like being attracted to a doll or something. Right,
exactly.
That feels weird to me.
Anime or something like that. It's to me, it's odd.
Something's weird about that. Yeah. So they're screwing with us, right?
They are.
And that doesn't feel good.
Totally. Okay. Now there's other applications, right? There's the written application, which, I have a couple of high school students that could tend to leverage some of those pieces, right? And I happen to know that there are now programs that are meant to read whether or not it was created in an AI or whether or not you wrote it. But it does bring up some other questions around what's plagiarism, what's not, right? And all of that. So there's a lot of complexities around the AI piece, and especially in that realm, when you're talking about creativity or not creativity and who's thought of it or who hasn't, and kind of going from that. And
do we really need another reason to make, this is not your children specifically, but mine too. Do we need another reason to make human beings dumber? Not
have to think is really what it is, right?
That's what it is.
To cognitively think.
Which is another whole topic, which I'm sure we'll start. But, I on my day, when I was going to school, you had to learn stuff and you actually carry it with you, right? I mean, I could, multiplication tables. I mean, I carry it with me. My kids can't add. They can't read and write. They can't spell. And we are in a good school district, what would be considered to be a good school district, with administrators that are making lots of money. Mm-hmm. There's another subject too, but yeah, I'm going there. We're going to tell people why I'm going there later. But man, I mean, they're not being taught, and now they're being actively given tools to say, you know what, you don't really have to learn this. Just type it into a computer and then let that do it. Is that? Where is this a good thing? Somebody find me an application of AI that's positive. I haven't been able to find it.
Yeah, I haven't either. And I'm going to be honest with you, because I think a lot of this started, again, from my perspective, is the whole GPS piece. When we stopped thinking about where we were going and what turn we had to take. And if you're not one of the people like myself that realize, why did I take that turn when I know I should have taken that turn and it would have been quicker because I've been doing it for 20 years, then you're not seeing the fact that we're being directed through this other thing
by a machine.
Self-thought. Like, maybe I should think about where I'm going instead of just, using these other applications to tell me where I need to go, whatever. Now, there's some benefits with traffic and stuff like that, but I'm going to a local place, or I know where I'm going, or I know what's going on. 90% of the time, I don't need to turn it on, right? So you're not thinking. And then you don't need to think. And now we don't need to think with the writers, and we may not need to think about maths and different problems, different things, because we're relying on the computers. Then what happens to our brains?
This is what I can't understand. Like, and GPS is such a great example, because I think about it. I don't know how to go anywhere. I really don't, because if there's a place I've never been before, I put it in the GPS and I never remember how I got there.
That's such a good point.
Right?
That's such a good point.
I never remember it.
Think about it. Yeah.
You never thought about it. You don't develop that memory. And then, so there's that. Then they talk about art. I mean, so AI generated art, which I could understand where that's easy and someone's making money off of it. Sure. But again, aren't we taking away the skill set of people becoming artists and creating art? And I don't know. So I've been listening to a bunch of programs on this. And recently, I think, Disney CEO, Bob Iger, he went on, I don't know if he was at a conference or something, he talked about this today. And they're all saying the same thing. So not just him, but basically, if you don't accept AI, then you're going to be left in the dust, right? That kind of a thing. This is what's being told to us.
That for a long time.
Yeah, like, it's like any technology. I heard somebody equate it to refrigeration, right? Oh, back before refrigeration, people that were, delivering ice blocks, they were saying that, if nothing's ever going to replace this, it's kind of the whole
world is dramatic at this point in time.
Yeah,
by the way.
and so, and the assumption on that is that every new technology is better, and if you don't, if you don't accept it, then you're somehow going to be left behind and everything else. Yeah. And okay, I get that you may fall behind. And I think a lot of companies feel that way, but it doesn't mean that every advancement we make is a good one. Right? I mean, there are many advancements that have not helped us as a society, like, most weapons, for example. I mean,
good point. Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like, I mean, you can't say that just because we have the ability to create it, that it's going to do good things for us as a society. And I don't know. AI, man.
It's interesting because on the flip side, when you think about things like when the television first came out, right? And there was this whole thing about it was going to be brainwashing and it was going to be the worst thing and it was going to be so bad, right? But people got it and they used it. And is the television so bad? No, right? People may argue that. People may not argue that. People may say it's educational, right? So there was another group that said, we could all learn from the TV. I'm not sure we learn from the TV anymore. But this is now gone to the point where that technology has moved so fast that do I think you either get on board or you're behind? No. But I do get concerned that we just grasp as a society whatever is newest and best, and everybody feels like they have to use it, right? And if you don't, then you may be left out. But in the end, in this scenario particularly, you may become smarter. by not using it.
By
You
not
may
using it,
have more
right.
cognitive thought. And, I was always taught that your brain is a muscle, right? That's what we thought. Your brain is a muscle. The more you use it, right? Taught your brain is a muscle. The more you use it, the better it's going to be, the more it's going to grow, the more you're going to learn. And now we're even getting lazy with our brain. We've already gotten lazy with our bodies. We're trying to get lazy with our brains because it's easy.
Yeah.
And we make a decision to say, you know what? I'm not going to use it. Or I'll use it in one situation, but I know I need to think, right? I'm going to turn off the GPS sometimes. I'm not going to write things that just unless we're
going to learn how to draw something, or I'm going to learn how to create music. I'm going to learn this. This is the stuff like cell phones are great. Social media
obviously hits home for you, by the way. I mean, the music is another big piece of it too, right?
It does, right? I mean, music is a reflection of what's here inside of you, right? And so, okay, that sounds deep, but like cell phones are another example, and social media. Like, I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that those have been positive advancements for our society. I don't think they have. I watch my children, and you watch your children, and I compare it to when I was younger, and they are constantly distracted. They are they have a constant excuse to not challenge themselves.
100%.
Right.
100%.
And so they're always down here. Right. And even me, if there's something like I'm working and I don't want to do something, what do? Go to Facebook, go to YouTube, because our brains will do that. We want that distraction, right? Because, hard work is hard work. Mm-hmm. So are those good things? Yeah, I could see financially how you're left behind if you don't embrace those technologies. But it doesn't mean that they're good technologies to push on people, right? I think AI is going down that same road.
I think AI is absolutely going down that path. And if we rely on the artificial intelligence, then we're not using the real intelligence, right?
Right.
It's called artificial intelligence because it's artificial, like an artificial sweetener, right?
Right.
It's not the real thing. But if we rely on that, then it becomes not artificial anymore, because whatever the intelligence is they're delivering to us becomes the real intelligence because we're using it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know it sounds dramatic, right? It sounds big, but, work with an email marketing company that is talking about how do we create messages that are all written by AI? How do we create pictures or images that are created by AI? And you know why we would do it? Because it's simple and it's easy, and people want simple and easy.
Right.
The hard work is not something people are driving for. So if I could do it quick and I could do this and get it out and have something else write it for me, then maybe I don't have to worry about it as much. Well, what happens to your brain, right?
Yeah, right. You have access to things that you shouldn't have access to as a human without putting in hard work.
For sure.
So I don't know. That's my bitter old man coming out again, but there it is. Okay. So now I have another one.
Well, I mean, I also want to just add some levity to this whole situation a little bit. I've used AI. At one point, I used it for my resume because I couldn't figure out how to write stuff the right way years ago. So, I could sit here and I can judge and I can talk about it.
What did it say you were?
Yeah, but just like the cell phone you mentioned a minute ago, which would be a whole nother episode, I use it, and I use it too much. And I've been known to log hours on my cell phone on a given day. So I'm guilty as all of us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it right.
I haven't used AI. I have to be honest. Like ChatGPT, never touched it. It's not because I don't know that it's good. I never got into it because I don't know, something doesn't feel right to me about it.
It's not in my practice. It's not in my practice. Like, I don't turn around and go, I'm going to use this or that, right? Like, it's not in my realm. Somebody brought it up to me to say, hey, if you can't think of how, try this. They may give you some ideas. I used it for some ideas. I crafted my own stuff. But it was helpful. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's a matter of how you're using it.
But it is, your GPS analogy is great. It is kind of the GPS of life, right? Because what happened as a result of doing it? You didn't really learn how to write your resume, right? You put it in and it told you what to do, and you put it down. You're like, that worked. But did you really learn the skill in a way that would make you remember it? Just like GPS tells you where to go. You did it, but your brain isn't like understanding how you did it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of part of the same thing, isn't it?
That is, right? Because when you think about, like you said earlier, that's why I said it was such a great point. It's like when you have things in GPS and you can do the same route over and over again, if you turn it off, you're going to have a hard time maybe knowing where you went. But if you thought about it and you did it, you'd remember it, right? You'd know, it'd be like clockwork. That's why, when you think about the artificial intelligence piece, I used it for certain pieces of things that I needed to do. Now, I didn't use it for the whole thing. So I just used this different phraseology, different things to think about, because you get, hopefully, I can say that I didn't do it in a way that I'll never do it again, or be able to think about it cognitively. But those are the things we got to work out. Those are the things we got to think about, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing then, speaking of education. Don't worry, I'm not going full in on this. But I do want to talk about this thing about teachers.
Okay.
This is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, well, I'll tiptoe a little bit, but I'll be honest, I always am.
Yeah. Well, I want your honest opinion on this, okay? Mm-hmm. All right. So this is another thing that in the last 20 years, we've been taught that teachers are public servants, and we are supposed to either feel bad for them because they're not getting paid enough, or we're supposed to, I don't want to say worship them, but, praise them at every step that we can. Like, if you're a teacher, you're a wonderful human being who's doing wonderful things. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I've kind of bought into that to some extent because I'm a corporate teacher, right? My whole family were teachers, and
kids. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I really believe that is an honorable profession, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not a profession that you're doing on a volunteer basis. Right? No, you're getting paid.
The decision. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you made the decision. You're getting paid. It's generally pretty good hours, although I know a lot of people jump on me. Oh, you don't know. Okay, I mean, it's generally pretty good hours, and it's fulfilling. Now, are you getting paid as much as some other professions? No, you're not getting paid as some other professions, but you get a lot of perks too, right? Like most of the teachers, especially around area, they have good pensions, they have good benefits, they better than I do, right? As an independent entrepreneur. Again, I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying that it's not like they're volunteering their time.
Correct.
And not all of them are good because
100% correct.
Our teachers, our children rather, are not coming out with the skill set that I think that they should be coming out with. And yet, if you call out a teacher, it's like, you're the most evil person on the face of the planet, because that's like calling out a fireman, people are truly volunteer jobs in many cases, right? Teachers are not volunteering. Sure. Right. So like, are we not allowed to say when a teacher is not doing a good job, then we can't call that out? We're not allowed to go up against that. We're not allowed to, and I'm going somewhere with this, but I know you have family members who are in this profession as well. So I wanted, am I wrong in this? What am I missing?
So I don't think you're wrong in this at all, right? There are a lot of benefits to teachers, and people do make a decision to become a teacher. It's not like you couldn't find a better job, so you relied on being a teacher. You made the decision, and I respect that. And I respect the people that have gone to the profession to do the job to the best of their ability, like anybody else. Like, I'd respect anybody else that wanted a job to do the best of their ability, and are working to help educate our children from kindergarten all the way up through college, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. I appreciate that, and I respect that the same way you do. But like any other job, and like any other group, there are going to be some teachers that aren't doing their job well. And I've had experiences of that with my children. I've seen there be what feels to me like a change in habits with teachers, in a change in accountability, holding kids accountability, and all of those pieces. I have seen a couple of bad eggs, but no, I don't call them out in public. I wouldn't dare.
You'd be a horrible person.
In the best interest, I will say this. I think it's in the best interest, because I have to believe in my heart of hearts that a principal or a superintendent of a school district does have the best interest of having their best staff. So I do call it out to them. If there's things I see, I let people know, because like anything else, if I was somebody on my team was doing something that wasn't right or wasn't doing their job well, I'd want to know so I could help coach you to correct it, right?
Yeah. The reason I worry about this for our society again is because anytime we protect anyone to the point that they're untouchable, then they're not going to get the feedback that makes them better, right? Like that's basically it. And so I had a recent situation. I won't go into too much detail because whatever, but I had a recent situation where in my daughter's school, the teachers were taking the kids on a field trip. They were supposed to deliver certain things and they didn't. Okay. Yeah. They were supposed to see certain things, do certain things, and they didn't do those things. And we paid a lot of money for this trip. And so when the kids came back and they said, the trip wasn't that good because the things that we were promised we would see and do and that and this, we didn't. And basically it was like a vacation for, they said, the teachers. I was like, okay, so, all right, whatever. So the point is just like you and give that feedback and try and have an explanation. Why didn't we do the things that we said we were going to do? Why didn't we get our money's worth? And what are you going to do to improve this in the future? Reasonable questions, right? You can't imagine the pushback that I got met with. And I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating the story.
Just out of curiosity, like what form?
An email to not to the teacher, but to the teacher's supervisors, right? Because it wasn't just one teacher. It was like a group thing. So I didn't want to single out anybody.
Sure. Makes sense.
So I wrote an email to their supervisor who was also involved in this trip and organizing this trip.
And that was the response to you.
And the response, I basically, I got a response saying, this is what happened, but, bring it up to the teachers and whatever. And so we did in a different forum, just with the teachers. And this is the pushback that we were met with, was essentially like, don't question us because we don't like, and so I was labeled as the difficult parent at that point, right? That difficult parent who dares question the teachers. Yeah. And so now I felt like a crummy person because I'm bringing this thing up in a place, how dare I question? And I've had this same type of a thing in a number of different situations with teachers, but not quite as obvious as this one.
Sure.
I don't know. I think it was really bad.
Yeah, that's bad. Because first of all, you look at it from a business perspective. Because let's face it, right? Like you look at educational systems, a lot of them should be looked at from a business perspective. And if you looked at it from a business perspective, okay, so in this scenario, you can compare tenure to union and, like however you want to look at it though. But, you're technically a customer.
Not technically. You are 100% a customer.
You pay for this.
My taxpayer dollars are paying them, right?
Pay for this to happen. So because there's no competition, I mean, there is, but because there's no real competition of others, then they don't care. Or,
I don't know.
What is the rationale behind something like that? Like, what are you going to do about it if you don't like my response? Like, you know what I mean?
That's it. And that's exactly what happened.
It's like a cable company. Go ahead,
well, too bad. Yeah. And I was like, and that's exactly where this went. Yeah. So that was it. Basically, you don't like it? Too bad. We don't have to answer to you. And that's essentially what it was, right?
Yeah. And you know what happens is there's this aspect of, well, he's not going to do too much because he doesn't want his kid to be treated different. And you're going to think, well, I don't want my kid to be treated different. I don't want too much of a jerk, right? I don't want them. Meanwhile, you weren't a jerk at all. But right. I don't want to raise too much of this thing because now they're going to treat my child different, or they may do this different, or this may happen. So then you kind of, retreat back into your shell and you're like, all right, well, we'll let it go, I guess, but it's not.
That's another one of these myths too, because then, all the salaries and everything are public. So you kind of get guilted into feeling like, well, how dare you talk about it? The volunteering that these people are doing wait a second. Let me just take a closer look. There's some good money being spent there with great retirements, great pensions.
Sure.
I mean, our superintendent in our district making far north of $300,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's what, I don't know how that happens, by the way, because it's taxpayer money, whatever. That's probably a whole other subject, but, I don't know that I'm going to have to sit here and feel bad for that.
No. Listen, if if it was a business, again, go back to the business side of things, and you're the superintendent, and therefore you run multiple, you run all the schools in the district, and you had businesses that were that size, and you had that many employees, and you were running things. And I know that superintendents don't work the school year, right? They really work the whole year and the whole nine. Then there are businesses that are paying people that to run businesses that size with that many employees.
Fine.
But I'm okay with criticizing them.
Yes, that's the point. Exactly. Exactly.
Don't tell me I don't have a say in how you do
that's
it. That's the customer or my children and myself. Right.
That's exactly right.
That's the point we're bringing up here.
I'm allowed to criticize them just like I'm allowed to criticize companies because they're making good money. They're not volunteering their time. Right. And so, we talk about solutions, everyday problems and everyday solutions. What's my solution to this? My solution to this maybe is, I'd like to make it okay for us to, God forbid, question what teachers are doing, right? I mean, they're not all doing all the right things. They're not all fantastic. They're not all infallible, and they should be open to criticism and feedback
100%.
And not get offended by that because how dare you, talk badly about this, this unappreciated profession. It's like, no one's saying that you're unappreciated. You're compensated well, you're doing a job, and I am your customer. So I am allowed to critique the job that you're doing, right?
100%. You work with the public. You work with customers. You're going to get feedback in any business. It should be welcomed. It should be a catalyst for change, or maybe you feel like the person's wrong, but you still treat them with respect and see that they're heard, or you know what I mean? You're going to get feedback all over the place. And so, yes, teachers and the industry and business of the educational systems should be willing to hear and look to adapt changes. I've had some experiences where they have listened and heard. I'm not sure if I would have done the same as far as an end result, because some of it may have just been some placating. But there definitely needs to be some hearing. The other point that I'm going to say as far as a solution for people that are really, having some, maybe difficulty within this area is, I don't know, think about the Board of Ed. Maybe join
yeah, well, and I'm part of some of the parents associations. I don't want to reveal too much because talk about the department and whatever. But at the end of the day, I am part of some of the parents associations. But there's restriction about what you could do and what you feel you can do, right? Because of this kind of untouchable thing. And here's the other thing, the last part of it that I'll complain about is that I would be willing to say that I'm an unreasonable parent if the result that they were getting was fantastic, right? Like, for example, let's say that a company is supposed to provide a certain service and they're providing that service and then some, and I'm complaining about it. And I would say, okay, maybe I'm just a complainer, right? But the service they're providing, our kids are not getting what they should be getting out of the educational system. I'm telling you, I mean, you can see they can't speak, they can't spell, they can't.
Communication. I mean,
basic things that they just don't know. History, geography, the basic things. I mean, that I learned as very early on, right? That the educational system is simply not teaching the kids. You can say, well, maybe your kids are not that smart, Bob. And maybe that's true, but they're getting good grades. So somewhere along the way, something's disconnected, right?
Where the disconnect comes in, and the reason I bring this up is because you talk about schools feeling like maybe not agreeing with what you're saying right now. Why would they? What evidence would they have to say different? And likely the evidence they would have is standardized testing. And so has one not changed to adapt to the culture and where we are today to truly show whether or not these kids are growing both socially and academically and all of that, which is what a school's job is. It isn't just the academic piece. It's also the social growth. Are we really measuring it the right way still? Because I'll probably tell you that probably standardized testing in the town in which you live are probably through the roof. They're probably up where it looks good and smart. Well, your town probably has one of the top rated school systems in the state, if not the right. So,
but standardized testing, the only way that you could actually see the progression is to standardize it over years, right? Like they standardize within a year to the people that they're giving it to, but is it the same test that they were giving 20 years ago? This is the question. And I think the question is pretty obvious that it's not, but you know, so anyway, this is where it goes, oh, this probably is a little deep and not as funny as I was hoping, but you know, we got to get these things out. So
hey, you got to talk about it. I mean, otherwise it builds up, Bob. And
it builds up. And this one's been bothering me a while though, because I mean, I don't know, all these myths, and maybe that's something we could, you know, pick up on next week is, there's so many myths that we were raised with. That you start to realize are not actually true. Right?
I don't even know if there's enough time to talk about them all.
I know.
But there are paths and myths and things you're supposed to do, a whole lot of things that we could talk about that you realize as you get older, you're like, wow, that just wasn't
very
different.
True, right? Yeah. There's just so many things.
It's not true,
that
right?
Wasn't true. So anyway, we'll probably pick it up there. But I guess that's why we are going to do this every week, because there's so much to talk about.
There's so much stuff to talk about.
Maybe I need to come in a better mood. I thought I was in a good mood today, but I'm just listening to myself.
You had this on your mind, Bob, and you know,
guess what it is. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we both come from teacher families.
Oh yeah,
Like we both come from, and we both teach, and our passion is
we're teachers.
To train and to do this sort of
we're
stuff.
Not public school teachers, but we're teachers.
We're not saying anything that is meant to be degrading. We just want to say, hey, there are bad apples like in any other business, and if you're leading a group that is doing this, the group of teachers, your superintendent, your principal, even just the head of a department, be receptive to feedback. Coach teams, build them up, make them better. Strive to have the best, most effective team as possible, no matter what you're doing, whether you're a teacher or whether you're in a business. Like, I just want that energy. I want the same energy across the board.
But I think you just hit it. I was about to leave, but now, but you just hit it. It's because I'm a teacher. See, so I'm not a public school teacher, but I'm a corporate teacher. That's what I do for a living. I train companies, right? And companies hold me to account. Like, if I don't teach their groups, or I'm not effective, or they don't like me, they're not going to hire me. They're going to fire me. And how do they judge that? They judge it based on feedback. They judge it based on surveys. Every class, I have to do a survey, an evaluation. Oh, here's another thing. One of the things that came from this, little complaining, and it did get a group of people to actually say, hey, something's got to be done. So they said, we'll do a survey. Okay, we'll do a survey. So they did a survey. They did a survey, by the way, only of the kids that went on it, not the parents who paid for it, but only of the kids, because they knew that the parents were all upset, right?
Got a blast.
Okay. And then, so they send the survey out. I kid you not. This is what they did. They send out an email, and it basically is a whole email with a bunch of pictures of the trip and the kids all come. And they basically give 3 paragraphs of what an amazing trip it was and how everyone had such a great time. It was so fulfilling. It was so incredible. It was so this, so that. And if you want to provide feedback, click this link. I'm like,
they did not.
They did. I promise you.
They brainwashed everybody first.
And then they said,
hey, let us know what you think.
I mean, I teach a class on voice of the customer. I said one of the problems with surveys is that you could lead the witness down whatever road you want, but it's never quite as obvious as that. Like, they may as well have said, please, if you don't mind, make sure that you only say good things, because look at what a great time all of the kids had. It's just amazing.
And are you ever going to get a group of high school kids to turn around and go, no, we had too much fun. I would have liked more educational pieces to take place on this trip. That would have been,
thank you.
Thank you.
Exactly.
You used to beat up that kid that would say that back in high school.
So that's what they, that's right. And that's what they, that was me. But that's what they did. So again, back to my analogy is that, with me, I can't do that. Like, if I'm teaching a company, I'm going to get real feedback, and that feedback is not always going to be great. And by the way, it hasn't always been great. And then I use it to improve, right? And if I don't improve, then they're not going to hire me. They're not going to pay me. But we don't have that ability with our public schools. So I think that's why the kids are not learning as much as they did, right? If we don't hold anybody to account, then that's where we are.
Then
so
why do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember,
So anyway,
feedback, Bob, feedback is a gift.
It's a gift. It's not always easy.
No.
It's not always easy to receive. I mean, I've spent many a depressed night.
And it's not always delivered
saying,
in the best way.
God, this person thinks I'm an idiot. Like,
yeah, it's not always easy to receive it all.
It's tough, but if you take it and you say, okay, what made them feel this way? How can I improve? But nobody wants negative feedback, right? That's another whole thing. Is like, oh, we only want to hear positive, right? Oh, how amazing. You put something out on Facebook and the only people that are going to respond to you are the people that either agree with you or want to make you feel good. And then you think that you're right in everything. And it's just not the way life actually is.
Because if you say something negative, you get attacked.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a whole nother piece that we can talk for years about. And we will, so by the way, we will talk about
so much to cover. Anyway, but what we have to cover more immediately is that the next episode, you will have a better microphone, right?
Yes, I will. I actually just got a message. Let me just look up from Amazon. Let's see.
No, this is
estimated arrival radio. Time 2:45 and 5:45 p.m. So
good. Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be here today, apparently, according to them. But we'll see if that changes.
Yeah, or whatever. We'll see, and then we'll continue to improve this.
Yeah.
I don't know how good of an episode. I don't know if was this a good episode. I don't even know if it was a good episode because it was like
could be. Sometimes you listen back and
I never know.
Nice
until I listen back and I'm like, but I didn't feel like
them, but I'm pretty selfish.
I didn't feel like I was very funny this time.
Yeah, well, it was more about
getting it all out so that I could be funny next time. That's the whole.
Exactly.
That's what we're going.
More therapy session for you. We're good.
So then why don't we just stop and then wait until then? So that's great. Well, thanks again for joining. Don't forget to hit the subscribe, the like, the whatever else you want to do. I don't even know if we're doing it for an audience anymore, but whatever. Enjoy. If you enjoy it, great. Give us feedback. We always love it. As we just spent time telling you, please provide us feedback if you want. And with all that said, we'll see you back here on another episode of
Beyond the Beef.
See you, everybody.